Right now in Dollar Tree, you can find some of the prettiest napkins perfect for summertime projects. I hope you enjoy. For the first part of this project, we're using one of those wooden crates with the handles from Dollar Tree. Starting off by painting it with some white chalk paint, but you could also use acrylic paint, making sure to paint the entire piece, including the inside, outside, and the bottom. Once the paint dries, take some Mod Podge and add that to one end of the crate, making sure that you spread an even layer and really get around that handle. Then turn around to the opposite end and add a layer of Mod Podge to that side. You'll also want to add a layer to the very front, so we're only going to be adding this to three sides, the two ends and the front. Really make sure you get inside those grooves on the front of the crate. Then you'll set this to the side and allow the Mod Podge to dry. We are going to be using one of these beautiful napkins from Dollar Tree, and I love the colors on this, just gives you such summer vibes. I'm going to remove the back layer of this napkin and cut that in half. We could save the other half for another project. Then set your crate on top of a heating mat with the Mod Podge front side facing up, and then line your napkin up, leaving enough space for it to go around each of the sides. Place a piece of parchment paper on top and then iron that on. Then you can flip it over, make sure everything's lined up and pulled tight, and you can repeat that process on each end of the crate, making a beautiful, consistent design all the way around. Then take your scissors and trim away some of the napkin, but leave a little bit. Then take your Mod Podge, go over top of the napkin, making sure that you cover both the front and each of the sides. Also, make sure to apply it where that opening is for the handle. This is really important when you get ready to clean this up and sand it. Once it dries, you can go around, really get those clean lines with some fine grit sandpaper and sand away that extra napkin. As far as the handles, just take something sharp, go around the inside of it to remove the majority of the napkin, and then you could fold up a piece of sandpaper or use a fingernail file to really clean that up. Again, you're going to get nice, smooth edgings, and do that on the other side as well. Now, we're not done with this just yet. We have more to this project. The second part of this project, we are going to be using some of those ceramic coasters that you can find at Dollar Tree. They come 2 in a pack and they have the cork backing. I will be using dishwasher safe Mod Podge on these coasters, and I'm going to make sure I add a good layer because it does soak up a bit of that Mod Podge, and you want to make sure you get the outside edges because we want our design to go all the way around it and wrap to the back. Just make sure you have a nice even layer and allow that to completely dry. The napkin we're going to be using, this one came from Dollar Tree, and it does have the design on all 4 sections. However, it does have this line. My entire pack had this line, so you want to be mindful of that when you are placing the design. So I'm going to use 2 separate napkins for these 4 coasters. I'm going to line up my design on top of the coaster, leaving enough of the napkin to go all the way around the edges. Then use a piece of parchment paper and a mini iron to iron this on to the top part of the coaster. Then trim away, but again leaving enough on the outside edges to be able to iron and wrap this around the entire coaster. So you'll do that all the way around the edging, and I like to go from the top down. Then you could take your scissors and trim away the majority of the napkin from the back side. Set that down and repeat that process with all 4 coasters. These napkins are so fun, and you can create all different kind of unique designs just by placing these images in different places. Once you have all 4 of the napkins done, take some more of that dishwasher safe Mod Podge and go around the back edging. If you have any of the extra napkin, you can push it down at this time and making sure that it wraps all the way to the back. I'm also going to make sure I get all of the outside edges, applying this dishwasher safe Mod Podge to the outside. Once that dries, you can flip each one of these over so that you'll be able to add your Mod Podge to the top. Just note that dishwasher safe Mod Podge does take between 21 and 28 days to cure, but look how fun these coasters are. I think they're going to be great on a patio or if you are having an outdoor event. They're so colorful and so fun, and because we made that crate, we have a beautiful way to hold them. For this project, I'm using this galvanized metal sign from Dollar Tree, and I'm adding a layer of Mod Podge all over the top of this. You may have to add 2 layers just because some of the metal didn't want to hold the Mod Podge. We're also going to use this napkin from Dollar Tree and remove the back layer so you're only left with the top layer. And then lay this down on top of the wet Mod Podge. Pat it down and make sure that the napkin adhered to the entire sign. Then take another layer of Mod Podge to really go over the top of this metal sign. You really want to saturate it just to make sure that that Mod Podge makes this napkin adhere to this metal. And then I went ahead and just cut the top half off and set this to the side and allow the Mod Podge to completely dry. Then you could take a pair of scissors and cut around a lot of those curves. This is just going to make it a lot easier when you get ready to use your sandpaper. So you can use sandpaper or fingernail file to remove all of that excess napkin and really clean up these edges. As far as the holes at the top where the hanger will go as well as the bird's eye, I did notice as I poked through there that some of the napkin was just really hard to remove. So I'm going to take some Mod Podge, add that to the back side of the sign, and then push that extra pieces of napkin through so that I'll be able to attach that to the back part of the sign. Once that dries, you could pick out a hanger of your choice. I'm going to use this beautiful sheer ribbon. Feed that through one end of the sign and just tie a double knot, and repeat that process on the other side. For this project, we are going to be using what Dollar Tree calls a glass cutting board, but I'm not going to be using it as a cutting board. First, you want to remove those silicone feet from the bottom. They are very easy to remove. They remain sticky, so you do want to put them on like a piece of plastic or wax paper so that you can reattach them later. They do leave a little bit of residue behind, so I'm going to take some goof off, spray it in those areas, let it sit for just a minute, and then using a cotton ball, remove all of that residue. Once I have that done, I am going to take some glass cleaner to really make sure I clean the back side of this so there are no streaks, no fingerprints. Once that is completely dry, we are going to be using some dishwasher safe Mod Podge, adding a nice even layer to the back side of this. I like to keep my brush strokes going in the same direction so they won't be as noticeable. We're going to be using these 2 separate napkins from Dollar Tree, peeling the back layers off so we're only left with the top layer. For this particular napkin, I am going to cut along where the napkin was folded, trying to keep that as straight as possible, and then I can lay this with the design side down on top of that wet Mod Podge, centering it up, pressing it down, and then add a layer of Mod Podge to the back side all over this napkin, making sure that I try to remove as many wrinkles as possible. While that Mod Podge is still wet, take the other napkin, try to line it up as best as possible, and you're going to lay this on top of your previous napkin, smoothing it out. Then add another layer of Mod Podge to not only the back side where the previous napkin is, but all over the entire glass piece, or as Dollar Tree calls it, a cutting board. You want to make sure you get an even layer and that it is completely covered. and you will also want to allow it to completely dry. Then you can take some sandpaper and gently sand away the remaining napkin. Be very careful because this is glass and you're sanding glass. Once you have that all removed, you can reattach those silicone feet. They're already still sticky, and I'm going to use mine as a spoon rest. Look how fun this napkin is from Dollar Tree. I just love these summer designs on here, and it goes all the way across the napkin. First, we're going to remove the back layer because we're going to try something different with this napkin. Set it down on a piece of wax paper. Then add a layer of Mod Podge to the back side of the napkin. You just want a thin layer, and you're not really pressing very hard because you don't want to tear the napkin, but add this all over the designs that you want to use. And you're going to want to allow that to completely dry. Once the Mod Podge is dry, you can then take some white chalk paint and a sponge dauber from Dollar Tree. You're just going to be pouncing the paint up and down on the back side of that dry Mod Podge. By just dipping the dauber into the paint and pouncing up and down on the back side of the napkin, this will help prevent from tearing the napkin. Once you have covered all of that dry Mod Podge, you'll want to let that paint completely dry. So it's going to be looking something like this. When you flip it over, look how bright the background is compared to where you didn't add the Mod Podge or the paint. Now that everything is dry, you can actually cut out each of these individual designs that you want to use, and they're going to have a beautiful white background, which is really going to make those colors pop on the design. Cut as many of these individual pieces out as you like. When it came to the pink flamingo, you're not going to be able to use the scissors because of the way the head bends over. So I just set mine down on a cutting board and using an X-Acto knife, trimmed that white part away. It came off very easy. And look how cute it is. Some of them are going to be a little tedious, but just take your time because it's going to be so worth it when we add these to our projects. Once you've cut all of the pieces out that you want to use, the first project that I wanted to add this to was this jumbo clothespin from Dollar Tree. It's so adorable. You're going to add your Mod Podge to the back of your piece, and then you can just set this on top of that clothespin and add a layer of Mod Podge on top of that. And I also kind of went over the surrounding area of the clothespin so everything would have the same sheen. I wanted to keep this clothespin a natural wood color, and in order for those napkin pieces to really be vibrant and pop out, is why I added the white to the back of it. That way it wouldn't just blend in with the clothespin, it would really stand out. So I'm going to add a few designs on the top as well as the bottom of this jumbo clothespin. For this project, I'm using one of Dollar Tree's cotton ball containers. I'm going to remove the lid and using some rubbing alcohol, go over the entire outside of this surface to make sure it is free from any fingerprints or debris. Allow that time enough to dry, and we're going to use some of those cutouts that we made in our previous project. Add a layer of Mod Podge to the outside of this container, keeping the brush strokes going in the same direction. Then you can apply your design on top of that wet Mod Podge and add an additional layer of Mod Podge on top of that. Again, making sure that your brush strokes go in the same direction. It will be less visible when it dries. And don't worry, this will dry clear. Continue to add all of your designs throughout the outside of this. You can add as many or as little as you like. And then you'll want to allow it time enough to completely dry. This is how mine is looking. Now you can fill this up with Q-tips, or in my case, I'm going to fill it up with cotton balls, and this is how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed today's projects, and if you have a favorite, please let me know in the comments section down below, because I always love to know which one is your favorite. If you haven't subscribed already, I would love for you to click that subscribe button right below the video. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I'll see you guys next time.